Good morning, everybody. Well, it is officially time to dive into this thing with both feet. So I just got back from picking up a chunk of this 4-inch square tube. That was the material that I was waiting on in order to be able to dive into this. So we're going to get these shovels knocked off from here and start modifying these ones to match those. So we're going to be putting this new Vevor to the test a bit more because I'm planning on using it for cutting this radius and trimming the sides down. We're going to have a fair amount of work for it. And then something that I've decided, I was walking around the shop this morning, and some of you that have followed my channel for a while know that I've got this Monarch 10EE over here that you've probably all assumed that I've forgotten about. And I walked around this thing this morning and I was disgusted with myself that I don't have a functional 10EE yet. So I have decided we're going to start moonlighting on the 10EE, that it is high time. I've got two lathes in this shop that I can't run. We've got the Colchester Mastiff 1400 and that Monarch 10EE. And I decided that in the immediate, that Monarch 10EE would actually get more use than the Colchester. If I had that going, there's tons and tons of small jobs that I would way rather do on that than on the Lodge and Shipley. So anyway, we are going to get that sucker up and going, I've decided. So it's, here it is. Let's see here. So here is we've still got a long ways to go there. Here. Interesting, it had more of an impact than I would have expected it to out here. I mean, we're still not quite there. But squishing that end significantly opened this up, so very interesting. So, first one was looking fantastic. Second one, I over-tweaked this and got about a 1/4 inch too wide. So now, we're bending it back a bit.
And I'm having to barely weigh it down.
Hi everybody, so it's about 6 o'clock at night, maybe a little after. I just got back to the shop. I thought I would just, we'll post a video tonight. I wanted to just show you guys how one of my days goes. So I was in the middle of fighting with those things, trying to work on that, when I got an emergency call from a well service company that I've worked for years. I mean, I've fixed stuff for them. I converted both of their trucks over to deck engines with Hondas running 2-stage pumps. They used to run PTO-driven pumps, and then you're running your truck engine nonstop and putting wear and tear on it. Anyways, so ages ago, I put 2-stage log splitter pumps on them. Works great. But anyway, so they're one of the few places that I still do some wrenching for. I don't know if any of you know that. I did 15, going on 20 years of somewhere in there of heavy equipment and diesel work and then all kinds of stuff. But anyway, they called the panic, had like blown the radiator cap off, massive overheat. And so I went up, dropped what I was doing here, which is why literally all of this stuff is laying on the floor, and went up there and determined, I wish I'd have brought the head gasket back with me. It's a 95 Dodge with a 360 in it. It was missing that much of the head gasket between them two cylinders. Blew it out. Now this thing, I just was up there 2 days ago and put water pump, timing chain. We were in there because it blew the gasket between the timing chain cover and the block. And while we're at it, it got a water pump and a timing chain. Anyways, my suspicion is it did not have a working temperature gauge at that point. And I think they overheated it a lot hotter than they thought they had when they blew that gasket because they lost most of the antifreeze. So I had put it back together, hold my breath, and it fired up and ran good. Wasn't bubbling through the radiator or anything. And they were headed out on a job with it today when the head gasket catastrophically failed. So I'm quite confident that it was hurt from probably getting royally overheated last week when it blew that other gasket out. So anyways, I've drugged this head back because I'm going to slap a straight edge on that. And we're going to find out how flat it is or isn't anymore because when I get a catastrophic failure in the middle of a nice gasket, which I put this engine together about 6 years ago, all new Felpro gaskets, no expense spared assembly. It shouldn't have just, and the gasket looked great, by the way. Gasket looked fantastic. It hadn't been hurting. It just hauled off and blew that bridge out in between. It actually had antifreeze running out of the exhaust pipe on this thing when they towed it into the shop. So, at any rate, I just wanted to show you, this is the kind of weird stuff I still get into. And we did today order, I don't remember if I told you guys about this. This is parts and pieces for a crazy project that I'm getting to help out with. So this is the input shaft and main cluster from an Alfa Romeo transmission in a race car. And this is the input shaft from a different Alfa Romeo. This one is a rear transmission model. This one is a front transmission. They're wanting to use this transmission behind an engine that's set up for a front transmission and convert this thing to torque tube drive. So what I'm going to be doing is building them a custom drive shaft that goes from the flywheel up in the front, clutch up in the front, I should say, that has that spline on it, to getting slipped onto this input at the back transmission with the rear shift setup. So they need, I think it was 68-inch long shaft created that has that spline on one end and this female spline on the other. I'm still debating exactly how we're going to do it, but I just ordered the cutter to cut that spline today. And I think what we're actually going to do, this is a junk clutch, is I think we're going to take the center out of this, take this disc and machine it down, and I think actually shrink fit it into a female pocket in the back end of the shaft I'm going to make. Then probably go ahead and buzz around it with TIG weld. So like massive, run this in liquid nitrogen and heat up the pocket it goes in so that it's got so much shrink fit on it that it probably wouldn't slip on its own, and then go ahead and run a little bead of weld around it. It's the thinking. So anyways, that's a project that's going to be in the works here pretty soon. We'll be doing some more spline cutting. But anyways, so there you are. That's why my days get so crazy. I get to screw with this for a couple hours, and then we're off tearing down a Dodge 360. So catch you guys on the next one. Wiggles and I are going to go home for the night.